Hello, this is top 5 scariest encounters with stalkers. Number 5. This happened around 2 years ago. There was a dude adjacent to my circle of friends that was the socially awkward type. And I've said hi to him a couple times to be polite, but that's it. I got really uncomfortable vibes from him, so I didn't go near him. But he seemed to always be around. My friends went to a very small con one day, and I was dressed in a pretty skimpy cosplay. And this guy would not leave me alone. I started ignoring him and pretending I didn't see him. He kept on getting really mad, and finally one of my friends pulled him to the side and tells him he's being creepy and to leave me alone. He then decided to sit in the main hallway and stare at me for hours every time I walked by. It was super uncomfortable. I hope it doesn't happen again. Number 4. It was back when I was 11 in 2012. I was in middle school on my second year of middle school in 6th grade. There was this really creepy guy who is a support worker. Every once in a while, he would come into homeroom and just stare at me, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. It made me feel really uncomfortable, and he must have known at the time. I was seriously thinking about moving my desk, but the man's name, which let's call him Mark Anderson, or Mr. Mark, he just kept following me until he finally decided to leave homeroom. One time, when I was being bad, he dragged me into another classroom, but Mr. Mark grabbed my arm really tight and left a red mark. Another time I was in my class, I was in queue for a kickball in the gym. Mr. Mark was coming after me, so I was running from him. He caught up to me and picked me up and then put me back down. He was also telling kids if they hugged him, he would buy Burger King from them. But I was so like, heck no. But then one kid named Taylor got some free food. I also realized it was total bullcrap and I could just get my own food. Mr. Mark one time was also pissing me off so much that I slapped him across the face. It wasn't the right thing to do, but this guy was a creep. That's it for my story. And have a good one. Number 3. I am 22 when this incident happened. A year and a half ago, I had just moved into my first apartment, and I was in the process of moving in. The door that led into my apartment locks itself automatically when closed. So I was going into the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail. Nothing wrong with that, but while I was talking on the phone with my boyfriend, I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while opening the mail. While I used the phone, I dropped my phone on the floor. I landed under my bed, so I had to lie on the floor and stretch for it. I saw something that had caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked the urge to scream. The person under my bed. He was lying still with his back towards me. His head dropped to his chest. His head went to his chest. So I couldn't see his face. And he didn't see me trying to be rational with so many thoughts. Being rational while so many thoughts rushed through my head. I picked up the phone and said, sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just going to take a shower now. By the way, this is only for Number 2. Or should I say, it's only 5. Sorry. Number 2. I was only about 14 when this happened. And the dude who was stalking me was a few years older. Let's call him Tom. I used to compete in events, and Tom's mom was president of one of the clubs that I belonged to. His mom dragged him along to an event one day where he must have seen and taken a liking to me. I don't remember actually talking to or even meeting him. That day he took it upon himself to look through the club's membership one to find my phone number. Tom called me every single day, multiple times for months on end. Twice a week in 3 months, and 3 times on weekends. I politely told him that I wasn't interested, but he was convinced that he would make me like him through sheer will alone. I stopped taking his calls after he started threatening to find and beat up any male I happened to mention, be it family, friend, or boyfriend. And I would fly into rage at the slightest thing. Sometimes he would just call to scream at me about something that happened at school that pissed him off. He started to find out which events I was going to attend by going through the entry forms. Once again, his mom was sent, and he would show up, follow me around all day, and demanding why I didn't want to date him. He went as far as grabbing me and shaking me when I tried to ignore him on the ground, or grabbing my horse reins if I was mounted. My mom asked Tom's mom to stop bringing him to events. I was starting to get scared, and she accused me of leading him on, acting I was like too good for her boy. When I should be considering myself lucky that someone like him would even look twice at someone like me. He eventually stopped when one of my brothers came to an event and stood over him while telling him to leave me alone and that he was an asshole. Doesn't sound very scary, but to have 14-year-old me with very little experience dealing with pushing men, I felt quite threatened, especially since my address was on the same form he got my phone number from. Number 1. About 3.5 years ago, I moved out of home with my then 6-month-old daughter. Everything was fine for about a year. I was quite comfortable with having my bed open at night. Then one night I was sitting around. I heard movement on my veranda. There's a small tin bucket under the window which I was using as an ashtray. I heard what sounded much like someone kicking it. Straight after this, it sounded like someone was running down my stairs on the way from the building. I freaked out to look outside, but couldn't see anything. I couldn't sleep that night. And the next few nights were difficult as well. Eventually, I decided I was being paranoid, and maybe it was just a cat or something blind, probably. So I thought nothing more of this for the next 6 months. Then one night around 3 a.m. again, I was sitting on my bed with the laptop. Then, when no blinds were open, I started to hear a strange noise like heavy breathing. I realized it was coming from my window. Freaked out, I turned off my light and saw a silhouette of a person at my window. Next thing I heard was the person pulling up their pants and doing the zip. It was at this point I realized he had been masturbating at my window. Terrified, I called a friend to tell her what was happening. The man had gone, but as I was speaking to my friend, I heard the screen door rattle. I grabbed a small hammer for self-defense, then crept to the lounge room window to look out. I flicked on my I can't say that. And as I did, he was walking past my window. He did not look up towards me at all. I should have walked away. Just walked away quite casually. He was an older man, maybe around 60, wearing some sort of shorts and blue singlet. Anyway, at this point, my friend told me to call the police. Yeah, I should have already called them, but I was panicking, not thinking clearly. So I hung up and called the local station. Explained the situation, and that my friend and I nearly had a nearly 2-year-old with me, and I was in a patrol car, would be out soon. A few minutes later, the police showed up, had looked around the building, then came up to me. When I opened the door, a policewoman pointed to my screen door and asked if I had put that there. It was 2 roses weaved through the screen. The man had left them there nearly 3:30 in the morning after masturbating at my window. At this point, even the police officers looked creeped out. They could take a statement from me. We went looking for rose bushes around the neighborhood, didn't find anything, but told me to call if I saw him again. I had my mother stay at my house for the next few nights because I was too terrified to sleep on my own. About a week after this incident, I moved out. I hadn't seen the man again, and I refused to go to that part of town. It creeps me out to know he had probably been stalking me for at least 6 of those months between the first incident and the final one. I know he lived in my street. I wasn't sure exactly where, but I went through so many things in my mind, like how often he watched me without my knowledge. Did he take photos or film me? What was he planning on doing next? These things were obviously escalating. I'm scared of being alone in a house at night. I can't really sleep if no one's with me. Anyways, that was my stalker experience. Sorry if it's poorly written. It's early in the morning. I decided to write out on the spur of this moment. Edit. I am a 24-year-old female, by the way. I was 22 at the time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Goodbye.